Dory 1, this is Fireteam Delta. Dad's coming home.
Welcome to the Military Veteran Dad Podcast, where it is our mission to bring every dad home. I am your host, Ben Cloy. I'm a United States Marine veteran, husband, and a father. We will bring authentic conversations to inspire action in your life so we can close the gap between the dad you are today and the dad you want to be tomorrow. This is the Military Veteran Dad Podcast. Welcome back to Military Veteran Dad. This is your official welcome to the weekend. I am your host, Ben Cloy, and it is officially Friday. And man, can't tell you how excited I am because it is warming up here in Wisconsin. We've had 40 degrees all week, and in the Arctic tundra up here, it has been super cold, super snowy, and this is the first sign that the seasons are changing. And if you checked out last fall's at Fatherhood Friday on seasons changing and what season of life are you in, this is the time where you actually see the transformation outside and the seasons are changing, where you're like, that is what is it about when you reflect on those big life choices of what season are you in. But that's not the point of this episode today. Today's episode is something that I'm going to continue doing a little bit more of, is talking about some training that I went through with Screamfree Parenting, and he also has a program called Screamfree Marriage. And this program is from Runkel, and he has two books by the same name. And today's principle, I want to talk about marriage because it hit me, and it was very in a profound way of the way he describes marriage. And when you start diving into the way he describes marriage, you quickly understand how much society has got it wrong. But I'm not going to go unload on all of the things that this man has to say because he has quite a few of them to say, and they're all really good. I want to focus on one in particular because in the training, I wrote it down specifically to give as a Fatherhood Friday. What if marriage is an exercise in maturity? Let me say it again. What if marriage is an exercise in maturity? That it's not about finding the person to spend the rest of your life with. That it's not all about having this other person serve you in this way of making sure you're home and starting a family. What if marriage is meant as an exercise in maturity for ourselves to grow up? What if when we enter adulthood and leave the home that is the one we grew up in, that marriage is meant to be a vehicle to help continue that path? Hal talks about something in this book called calming down, growing up, and getting connected. He boils his entire marriage book down to those three principles to solve all connections within marriage. It's actually quite remarkable throughout the book of how often he is able to connect this idea, calming down, growing up, getting connected, as the path to go through marriage. And he kind of summed it up when we were in the training and said, what if marriage is an exercise in maturity of calming down, being able to have rational conversations, not emotionally react to all the things that trigger you, an exercise in growing up and being able to be more of an adult, a mature adult that can provide example for your kids to be mature, capable adults, but then also to be able to be adult-like within your marriage. I mean, there are so many cases where you see a husband, or in some cases, I was also in this trap, where you're not actually living in a marriage. You're actually more like just extending the relationship that you had with your mother. That is not something that's attractive. That's not something that's sexy. And nothing about that says it's marriage. That says it's an exercise in immaturity. But it's not. It's an idea that we all have to grow up, calm down, and get more connected. And it's a pretty simple idea, but it still has a lot of hard work to do within it. Because in order to calm down, I've got to acknowledge a lot of things that trigger me. And that sounds really scary, and it is really scary. But recognizing that in this exercise of growing up and calming down, you become a more capable adult. And that's not the general way that it's talked about in society. And this book and his program and what we were talking about last week in this training just really hit me in a way that I can't tell you how many times, even just in the last week, as a parent, as a husband, that I've gone into the moment and said, all right, Ben, it's time to calm down, grow up, and figure out how to get more connected. And getting more connected kind of shows up where you figure out the right way to present your responsibility to the marriage. You're part of the pattern, owning, identifying the part that you're in. It's just really cool how that component of getting connected isn't actually just something you're talking about like an emotional connection. It's how do you get more connected and reveal really what's going on? What is your component that you're owning within the responsibility of the pattern of whatever event may be going on? It's identifying and saying the desire that you truly want. Skip over maybe the short issue of what you feel like is the hand. What are you truly desiring for? He also talks about something in this book about going up to the balcony. In order to calm down, grow up, we go up to the balcony, and which when you're on the balcony looking over your problem in your life, you can be like, wow, I can see it from a different perspective. I can kind of see where she's coming from. I can kind of see where this person's coming from. And it wasn't this emotional reactivity that I had when I was in the heat of the moment. And so calm down, grow up, and get connected. Now, those are simple 3 words, and there's a lot to those words. This book in audio form is almost 7 hours long. But man, this book is already leaving imprints in my head of how do I look at my life as an exercise in maturity? How do I look at things coming into my life, whether it be my things with my kids or whether my wife, all of it. It's how do I grow up? Because when you have this idea of growing up, it's kind of unique because I haven't heard people talk about it. I mean, when's the last time another adult told another adult, you need to grow up? You often hear like, don't act like a child, but no one ever tells you to grow up. And I've been thinking about this idea that instead of man up, which there's kind of been a backlash towards man up a whole bunch of times throughout the last probably 10 years, I would say. Man up has been something that's very toxic and not recommended. And I would buy into that man up is a recipe for isolation, shutting down, and not realizing that it's okay to feel what you need to feel. But instead of man up, what if we said grow up? What if we swapped out the idea? Because growing up means that in some moment we might still be a child. And yes, we do need to grow up. We don't need to man up, but we need to grow up in an exercise of maturity. Now, that comes in as an adult, that comes into your marriage. And Hal also talks about something that really hit me as well, that what if parenting isn't about them? What if it's about us? And he has some of the same advice when it comes to parenting. Calm down and grow up. It's even simpler on the parenting side, like figuring out how to calm down, grow up, allows you to disconnect yourself from that idea. Last week, we talked about, are you raising kids or an adult? This is the same idea that when you put kids into the world that aren't kids, that they are understanding and already in the momentum of growing up, it's just an exponential phase that they keep doing. And I can say so many times that I got lost on this path of just defaulting to this flatline standard and not really accepting that I need to own my choices. I need to recognize who I am and what part of the pattern of my life am I playing. So, circling back, the question again, what if marriage is an exercise in maturity and all the other things are benefits of marriage? But at the very core of what marriage allows you to do, it allows you to continue the growth and exercise of yourself, not losing yourself, not sacrificing yourself for your other spouse's needs, and somehow losing yourself, creating midlife crises when we turn 40. But what if it was an exercise in growing up, being more of who we are, not doing more, but being more? And if we start questioning these types of things, I wonder what else could be possible if some of these are true. I know I've already seen results of these showing up in my life, and it's already leaving dividends. And like I said, I can't help but in the back of my head hear Al already saying, it's time to grow up, calm down, and figure out how to get connected. And so with that, I'm going to leave you with this piece of advice. Figure out, what does growing up look like in the moment that you're in? Because a lot of times when you're emotionally reactive, you're not an adult. You're kind of almost defaulting back to how you might act as a child, and that's not who we want to be. That's not what adult says. When you talk about adulting being hard, that's not something that we do. So think about it. What if marriage is an exercise in maturity?